Hey everyone, it's Allie, and today it's time to talk about probably my single most favorite strategy in Path of Exile, Essence Farming. This is the ye old classic Allie Essence Farming video that you expect pretty much every single season in Path of Exile, and while I was a little bit stun-locked on what to do in terms of essences over Necropolis as they change essences and beasts quite dramatically, we have found a new niche on how to farm quite a lot of essences in the normal typical Allie fashion in the low tier maps. Today we'll be talking about farming specifically Einhar Memories of Crystal Prisons. These are going to effectively be a Alice strategy within a single item that's going to make it so you don't need an Alice tree for doing any of this, and you do not need to get yourself any sort of supplies outside of getting yourself some Remnants of Corruption and getting the Alice memories themselves. Because of this, it's very easy to hop in and do some of this and see if you like it or not. And it's very easy to commit out of it, as you don't need to effectively respec a whole Alice tree if you don't want to do more of it. It's a fun strategy that revolves around trying to put as much movement speed in your build as possible, as the faster you go, the more money you make. And because of that, and just due to how easy the monsters that we're fighting are going to be relatively to how difficult essence monsters are nowadays, this should be a very good way for quite a lot of builds to make a decent amount of money. I do want to warn you that you're going to need a few div to be able to start this, maybe somewhere around 3 to 4 div at a minimum to be able to get enough essence memories to get enough of a bulk to be able to sell off your essences, and you're going to need to get yourself a few remnants of corruption to be able to corrupt some of the essences that we encounter. Finally, these essences can potentially get pretty tough. My build is fairly strong, and even I sometimes randomly die to an essence monster in a tier 5 map because these essences are going to be so juiced that they're going to honestly be more difficult than tier 17 maps at times. So you have been warned that if you can't handle, for example, a tier 16 map, you might potentially struggle with some of these monsters, and some monsters might downright be so difficult that your build physically cannot kill them. It's not really that difficult, but you have been warned that sometimes you can encounter just an absolute raid boss of an essence, but well, that's just how essence farming sometimes goes. So with that out of the way, let's talk about the strategy and how to do it. As I mentioned, all you're going to need is to get yourself an Einhar's Memory of Crystal Prisons. This is not going to interact with anything that you have at all outside of your Watchstones, which we're going to want to make sure we remove from our tree before we do this, as we want to do these memories in the lowest tier maps we possibly can. These essence memories are not affected by the essence changes that happen in Necropolis, meaning that they do not care about map tier at all. Because of that, we ideally want to do these in the lowest tier map possible. So all you're going to do is, once you get these, is just simply open up your atlas and then right click with the essence memory onto a tier 1 map, or ideally if you're a little bit stronger on Strand, and that's just going to create a path through a bunch of maps, and that's going to showcase you the maps that you have to run for that memory specifically. To be able to start them, you're going to talk to Einhar and he's going to show you the map, and you're simply just going to click activate, as we do not want to alch or transmute or do anything to this map, as it's simply only going to make it more difficult. Ideally, you're going to use these on tier 1 maps to make it so the highest difficulty map is going to be a tier 5, but if you're okay with dealing with slightly more difficult content, you should ideally use these on Strand, as the maps that branch from Strand have generally better layouts than all the other maps anywhere else in the atlas. Once you do open up your map and go inside of it, all you're going to have to do is, well, very simple. Walk around the map, find all 5 essence monsters, kill them, and loot them, and just move on to the next map that Einhar has for you. The only other thing that you have to keep in mind here is going to be that you're going to want to corrupt some of the essences that you come across. Now, you can get pretty involved with your essence corruption strategies, as there's quite a lot of variables attached to it, but what I'm going to offer you here is going to be a very simple corrupting strategy that should hopefully be very easy to remember. What you're going to want to do is carry some remnants of corruption with you. These are going to allow you to corrupt non-corrupted essences, as sometimes they will already be corrupted through remnant corruption, and it's going to either reroll all the essences on it, do nothing, upgrade everything by 1 tier, or in the case of the purple essences, potentially corrupt them into the corruption only essences available only from these essences. The general strategy of what you want to do here is, if you ever see a large stack of green, orange, or blue essences on a monster, you're going to want to use a remnant corruption on it. Personally, I skip the first 2 maps and don't use any remnants on those, as those essence monsters don't have that many essences on them to begin with. I only start corrupting from the 3rd map onwards, as those essences, in my opinion, have enough on them to make it worth it. So as long as you remember green, orange, and blue, that's going to pretty much take care of most of the random variations that you're going to want to think about. Lastly, you're going to also want to go corrupt every single purple essence that you see. That is going to either be Scorn, Envy, Misery, or Dread. It's not going to matter if they're screaming, shrieking, or deafening. You're still going to want to use a remnant corruption if you see one of those 4 on the essence. No matter their tier, they are going to corrupt into one of the 4 corruption only exclusive essences, which are worth substantially more money than any other essence at around 20 chaos each, and are always worth the attempt. Outside that, there's literally nothing else to the strategy. Simply walk in, kill all the essences, corrupt whatever you see is worth it, and then simply just put everything away in your stash and go over to the next map. Now, once you're done farming and have yourself quite a lot of essences, let's talk about what you're going to actually want to do with them. You're going to have yourself a lot of varieties of wailing, screaming, shrieking, and deafening. Because of the current market prices, what you're going to want to do is upgrade every single essence on the left side to Deafening. On the right side, you're going to want to upgrade your Loathing, your Zeal, your Anguish, and your Spite to Deafening as well. And you're going to leave Scorn, Envy, and Misery, the 3 first purple ones, either as Shrieking if you get them as Shrieking, or Deafening if you get any as Deafening. Do not upgrade your Shrieking over to Deafening because of the market prices. It is worth selling these as Shrieking instead. And finally, with Dread, you do want to upgrade these all the way to Deafening as they're basically worth nothing. There's also going to be 4 types of essences that are worth basically no money that we're going to want to use the harvest bench to reroll into essences that are going to be worth something. That is going to be Suffering, Doubt, Anguish, and Dread. You're going to want to upgrade these over to Deafening, and then you're simply going to go over to the Hoarder Crafting Bench, type in Essence into the search bar at the bottom, and then put them in here with a little bit of blue life force, and then this is going to allow you to reroll them into any other random essence. This is highly worth it to do, as those 4 essences are basically worthless and nobody is going to buy them. And for the price of blue essence currently, you more than make all of your money back with no chances of you not making anything, as you're simply just looking for literally any other outcome. Make it very easy to reroll these. Finally, you're going to get yourself quite a lot of different Hysteria, Insanity, Horror, and Delirium, the 4 corruption only essences. And what you're going to want to do here is take all of your Insanity and all of your Delirium and reroll them into both Hysteria and Horror. It doesn't matter which one you go for, as they're both worth basically exactly the same price, but Insanity and Delirium are currently not popular in any builds, meaning that they're basically worth nothing and people only buy them to reroll them if you sell them for cheap enough to reroll them into those 2 essences. So you might as well just reroll them yourself. The only other thing that we're going to have to talk about in this strategy is going to specifically be how to handle selling your essences. Now, there's going to be 3 different ways to go about selling them. Your first option is just use Wealthy Exile. In Wealthy Exile, you can simply log in, set up your stash tab, so it sees your essence tab. If you go over to your stash tab, you can then click on your essence tab specifically, and then click the sell button. This will allow you to price your essences at some percent of PoE Ninja value. And if you simply go over to the trade section of the website and go to Essence High, we can see what currently people are trying to sell them for. As we can see, people are currently trying to get somewhere around 90 to 100% for their essences. So in our case, we just simply go over to our essence tab and just do the same thing where we turn on bulk only, so people have to buy everything at once. And if we want to get a quick sale, for example, maybe just push them at 90% and click list items for sale. This will put our essences up for sale, and if someone wants to buy them, they'll come to us and message us for everything in there, where we would simply just take all of our essence and just give them all the essences at once. Your second option is to potentially use the auction house. Now, I personally don't recommend doing this, as for example, if I want to try and sell 50 Deafening Essences of Hatred, it cost me 4,000 gold to do so, which is simply unreasonable given how we're doing yellow and white maps, which is frankly not going to really give you much gold. If you attempt to sell them to the auction house like this, which would be ideal as it'd make it very easy, and these are very good prices, you simply are just never going to have enough gold to do this because gold prices are really bad in the game currently. Finally, your last option, which I haven't personally been doing, as it on average makes you the most amount of money given how you can set your own rates, is to specifically set my essence tab to public and simply go through and price every single one of these essences individually. Now, this might seem really annoying, but once you do it once, it really is not that bad to do. What I'm doing for all my essences, I'm specifically putting them at a ratio of 9 only. The reason we're doing this is because they stack in sets of 9. So if someone wanted to buy 10, for example, they never could. They'd have to either buy 9 or 18 or 27 or some multiple of 9, which makes it a lot easier for you to handle them and very quickly take them out of your stash. And at the same time, because you're only selling in multiples of 9, every time I upgrade my essences over to Deafening, the chances of me specifically having a multiple of 9 is very low. This means if, for example, I were to sell all of my hatred, if someone wanted to buy all of them, in this case, I'd be able to only sell 36 of them and still have 2 left over. Because there's still 2 in the slot, the price is going to stay. So as soon as I add more Deafening Hatred back into the slot, they'll simply just be immediately priced. Because they're priced in sets of 9, you can only see them up on the trade website when I have enough stock, but you'll never be able to see any of the extras on there, meaning people can never buy them, which makes it substantially easier to do. One thing to mention about this is that you are going to potentially have to look over the prices of all these every now and then, but it's very easy to do with Awaken Trade. And personally, what I've been doing is looking at the chaos rate with a minimum stock of at least 20 to show the people who have a bulk. I simply just look at whatever people are listing at 9, and if they're undercutting me by maybe a chaos or 2, I'll simply just go over and adjust my offer from example 35 down to 34 and just move on with the rest of my day. This really isn't too bad to do, and I only go and price check all of these maybe every 3, 4, 5 hours or so just to make sure I'm keeping up with the market. And as long as you're doing that, it really isn't that bad to sell them like this, especially if you're a little bit picky and only sell to people who ask for 20 or 30 or 40 essences from you at once. The downside of doing it like this is you're going to need to potentially do 3, 4, 5 essence memories to have enough essences of each type to actually be able to sell them in bulks of 9, but it really isn't that bad if you go into the strategy with a little bit of money. And with all that said, that's pretty much everything that you need to know to be able to do the strategy. I have been having an absolutely wonderful time so far doing this. I've been making quite a lot of money, and I've really been enjoying my time finding a way to make essences once again very profitable. If you have any questions on anything we discussed here, feel free to leave a comment in the comments below, and I'd be more than happy to help you as soon as I can. I also stream on Twitch every single day, so feel free to come by Twitch and ask any of your questions there. Or if you simply just want to come and hang out with other cuties and be a part of our community, I'd be more than happy to see you there as well. With all said, I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day, and I'll see you all in the next video.